quaint village of Headley Down in Hampshire was home to 26-year-old Mark Gleeson, a young man with a persistent, disturbing snoring problem that haunted his nights and stole away the peace of his household. The root of his problem lay in a prior car accident, which left him with sinus issues that manifested as incurable snores, as per the medical verdict. It wasn't just a personal ordeal, but a shared inconvenience with his girlfriend, Tracy Lambert. The snoring was an unwelcome guest that lingered within the walls of Mark's home, echoing through the hallways each night, mocking the tranquility of the countryside. Mark yearned for silence, the kind that enveloped his days spent at the local bookstore. Each night, as the sun cast long shadows on the streets of Headley Down, the dread of nightfall slowly crept into Mark's heart. The snoring was more than just a nocturnal nuisance. It was a discord in the serene symphony of his life, a discord that Mark was desperate to correct. Days turned into nights, and nights into restless quests for solutions. Mark was desperate for a way to bring back the peaceful slumber that once graced his nights. The medical fraternity had turned its back on him, providing no respite from the nightly cacophony that tormented him and Tracy. On March 9, 1996, a disheartened Mark returned from a doctor's visit. The words, "Nothing much could be done," echoed through his mind, fueling his desperation. The desperate times called for desperate measures. An unconventional idea blossomed amidst the despair. What if the solution to his problem lay within something as mundane yet unorthodox as a tampon? The idea was simple: to block the pathways of the snores that rumbled through his nostrils each night. And so, on that fateful night in March, armed with a resolve to reclaim the night's peace, Mark and Tracy decided to employ tampons to tackle the relentless snoring. The evening sky cast a crimson hue as Mark prepared for bed, the stars seemingly aligning to herald the silence that was to come. With a mixture of hope and trepidation, he inserted the tampons into his nostrils, taping them securely. The texture of the tampons against the inner walls of his nostrils felt foreign, yet every breath he took was a step towards the silence he yearned for. As Mark lay down, the silence around was promising, but the silence within was haunting. As night blanketed Headley Down, Mark drifted into a slumber, the tape holding the tampons firm against the relentless snoring. However, unbeknownst to Mark, the tampons were not just barriers to his snores, but also to the very breath of life. The snoring ceased, but so did the rhythmic rise and fall of his chest. The tampons, aided by sleeping pills he had taken, became agents of suffocation, stifling the life out of the young soul as he lay there, unknowingly gasping for breath in the dead of night. The sinister irony was that the silence Mark so desperately sought was achieved, but at a cost too dear. The dawn broke, casting a solemn light on the lifeless form of Mark, whose face bore a peaceful expression, a stark contrast to the storm of despair that now engulfed Tracy. The tale of Mark's desperate attempt to curb his snoring spiraled beyond the boundaries of Headley Down, sparking a dialogue on the lengths individuals would go to remedy what seemed like trivial annoyances, but were, in reality, profound sources of distress. In the Roaring '20s, baseball was more than just a game. It was the heartbeat of America. Stadiums, filled to the brim, resonated with the palpable excitement of fans eagerly awaiting each pitch, swing, and score. On a particular day in August 1920, within the confines of the Polo Grounds in New York City, that heartbeat would skip a tragic beat, leaving an indelible mark on the sport's storied history. The Cleveland Indians and the New York Yankees, both titans of the diamond, were immersed in what many expected to be another classic showdown. Every hit and miss mattered, with fans on both sides hoping for a victory to boast about. Among the lineup of renowned players, Ray Chapman, Cleveland's pride, stood out. His athletic prowess and genuine love for the game had garnered him a special place in the hearts of many, making him a beacon of hope for his team and fans. As the sun cast long, retreating shadows and the air filled with the mingled scents of fresh grass and popcorn, Chapman stepped up to the plate. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Each player, fan, and even the vendors knew that in baseball, anything could happen. And while most looked forward to a home run or a clever steal, no one could have predicted the events that would unfold. The heart of baseball, its essence, has always been rooted in its moments of unpredictability and sheer human effort. Moments where an underdog team pulls off a win, or when a player defies the odds with an outstanding play. Yet, this particular moment was not one of celebration, but of heart-wrenching shock. As Yankees pitcher Carl Mays readied himself for what seemed like just another pitch in his illustrious career, the universe aligned in the most unfortunate manner. Pitches go astray, it happens. Batters have brushes with the ball, a slight scare, maybe a minor injury, but then the game goes on. This time, however, the ball, with all the force a professional pitcher could muster, made contact with Chapman's head. The sound, stark and unsettling, echoed through the stadium, transforming cheers into gasps. It's a noise that some fans present that day claimed haunted them for years. In an era where safety equipment like helmets were not yet standard, the danger of such an incident was profoundly magnified. Instantaneously, the game's vibrant atmosphere, usually filled with spirited banter and playful rivalries, was shrouded in a grim silence. Chapman's fall to the ground seemed in slow motion, a tragic dance of fate and circumstance. For many in attendance, it felt as if time had cruelly stopped, turning a place of joy into a scene of potential sorrow. The immediate response was a mix of disbelief and hope. Perhaps he was just dazed, many thought. After all, players had been hit before and had walked it off. But the gravity of the situation became clearer as moments turned to minutes, and Chapman remained distressingly still. As medical personnel rushed to Chapman's side, the collective hopes of thousands soared. Prayers were whispered, hats were removed, and many looked away, unable to bear the sight. The vibrant player, full of life and dreams, lay motionless, his destiny now intertwined with a stray pitch. Chapman was promptly taken off the field, and the gravity of the injury became evident to those in the stadium. Whispers circulated, a stark contrast to the usual uproarious nature of baseball games. Fans waited with bated breath for any news of his condition. Word spread quickly. Chapman had been rushed to the hospital, fighting for his life. A shroud of sorrow covered not just the stadium, but the entire baseball community. In the long hours that ensued, fans, teammates, and even rivals hoped for a miracle. Ray Chapman was not just a player. He embodied the spirit of the game, a testament to hard work, dedication, and the sheer love for baseball. The cruel twist of fate that placed him in the path of that fatal pitch was a sobering reminder of life's fragility. But as dawn approached, barely 12 hours after the tragic incident, the most feared news was confirmed. Ray Chapman, at the young age of 29, had succumbed to his injuries. The outpouring of grief was immense, transcending team loyalties. For many, it felt like losing a dear friend, someone they had cheered for, celebrated with, and admired from the bleachers. The incident didn't just leave a void in the hearts of baseball lovers, it brought about a seismic shift in the game itself. As with many unforeseen tragedies, it served as a catalyst for change. The realization that a player's life could be endangered in what was supposed to be a game led to serious conversations about safety and the player's well-being. While it took time, this incident was a precursor to the introduction of helmets and increased safety measures, ensuring that such a tragedy would never be repeated. The Ford Motor Company plant in Flat Rock, Michigan, was a bustling hive of activity in 1979. Rows of cars in various stages of completion, metallic components glistening, and the synchronized dance of machines and men painted a picture of industrial triumph. The assembly line had revolutionized the automotive industry, and now the dawn of a new era was upon them. Robotics, sleek, efficient, and tireless, these robots promised a future where production could be exponentially faster, reducing human error and fatigue. Robert Williams, a 25-year-old worker, was an embodiment of the American dream. Hailing from a modest background, he took pride in his job, relishing the opportunity to be part of something bigger, something transformative. With a gentle smile that seldom faded and a work ethic that was unmatched, Robert had become a favorite among his colleagues. That fateful day began like any other. The air was thick with the smell of freshly welded metal, and the plant's massive overhead lights illuminated the factory floor as workers took their positions. Robert, responsible for retrieving parts from shelves using a small crane, was well versed with his role. The robots, though new, had specific demarcated zones with clear safety protocols in place. However, as is often the case with nascent technology, unpredictability remained an inherent risk. As the hours ticked by, Robert was notified of a missing part. The production line couldn't afford delays, so with a sense of urgency, he ventured into a storage area where parts were stacked high. Unknown to him, a robot, designed to retrieve these parts, had malfunctioned. Instead of following its predetermined path, it began a rogue operation. Robert, engrossed in his search and with the drone of machinery around, didn't notice the massive arm of the robot swinging towards him. It moved with alarming speed, programmed for efficiency, but lacking the human intuition to stop or swerve in an unexpected situation. The metallic limb, with its considerable weight and momentum, struck Robert squarely in the head. The force was immense. His body crumpled instantly, the once bustling atmosphere turning into a scene of sheer panic. Alarm bells rang out, piercing the rhythmic hum of machines as workers rushed to Robert's aid. But the damage was done. A life, brimming with dreams and potential, was snuffed out in an instant, marking a somber milestone in the annals of technological advancement. Robert Williams, in a cruel twist of fate, had become the first person known to be killed by a robot. The immediate aftermath was chaotic. The section of the factory where the incident occurred was cordoned off, and the machines were halted. Workers, many of whom had witnessed the traumatic event, gathered in hushed, teary-eyed clusters, struggling to process what had just happened. The plant's loudspeaker system, usually used for announcements about shifts and breaks, now conveyed messages of grief and loss. News of the incident spread like wildfire, not just within the confines of the factory, but across the nation. Television crews, reporters, and photographers descended upon the plant, their lenses capturing the juxtaposition of Ford's cutting-edge machinery and the palpable human tragedy. Robert's story was splashed across front pages, sparking a nationwide debate about the integration of robotics in industries and the unforeseen risks associated with them. Ford Motor Company was thrust into the limelight, but for all the wrong reasons. The senior leadership convened emergency meetings, grappling with both the public relations nightmare and the profound moral responsibility they felt. How had their stringent safety protocols failed? Could this incident have been prevented? As investigations were launched, it became evident that while the company had invested heavily in the technological aspects of robotic integration, there were gaps in ensuring foolproof safety for the human workers who operated alongside these machines. The robot that struck Robert had experienced a glitch, one that wasn't accounted for in its programming. The Williams family, still in shock and mourning, was inundated with messages of condolences from all quarters. Yet, amidst their grief, they recognized the need to ensure that Robert's death wasn't in vain. With the assistance of legal counsel, they filed a lawsuit against the manufacturers of the robot, seeking accountability and pushing for reforms in the industry's safety standards. The trial was closely watched by industrialists, tech innovators, and labor unions alike. And while no verdict could bring Robert back, the case's conclusion led to significant changes. Ford, along with other industrial giants, began a rigorous review of their safety protocols. Investments poured into research to develop more intuitive robotics, ones that could sense human presence and adapt accordingly. Training programs, safety drills, and awareness campaigns became commonplace in factories across the country. The incident, while deeply unfortunate, catalyzed an industry-wide shift towards creating a safer environment for workers, ensuring that the promise of a technologically driven future did not come at the cost of human lives.